Hello. It's been a while since I've recorded anything, so hopefully I still understand how to talk and occasionally make chess moves. Uh, let's play check Benoni. Do what I'm most comfortable with these days. The idea is to play e5. If they take, I get a big center. If they do not take, I have time to close the center in a way where black's a little cramped, but I'm comfortable with the standard developmental schemes. I've also been, sometimes now I have knight takes d5 tricks. Maybe even knight takes e4. Do I want to go for it? Knight takes d5, knight takes d5, bishop g5. Looks good. The one worry is knight takes d5, bishop e7, knight e7, knight b5, and d6 can be very hard to hold. Now knight e4 is also possible. Knight e4, bishop e7, knight c3, bishop d8, knight d1. My knight has a way out. I think this is good. And I think knight e4 is more accurate than knight d5 here. I believe I have won a pawn, and I will win a second pawn if they try to run away with their bishop. If they play bishop c7, maybe actually I play king d7. No, I don't think I have to, because I can play knight d7 here and keep both e5 and c5 and try to stay up a pawn. Probably next move is knight a4, come back to b6, maybe play f6 and king f7 to get my king out of the way. It's going to be a little hard to displace their bishop, but it's pretty promising. Alright, so let's start with f6, secure e5, and give my king a kind of path to f7 to connect the rooks. I have been making triple triad videos, which have been going up for a while. It's this wonderful card game, really strategically deep, I think, and a lot of interesting calculations. Maybe I can get a knight c3 if they happen to put their rook on d1 or b1. So I'm not going to be in any rush to retreat to b6. Anyways, it's a wonderful game, and I would appreciate anyone that checks out videos on it, because I think they're very interesting. Alright, let's prevent all infiltration. If they play f4, I think I go e4 and try to get an f5. Yeah, this pawn doesn't seem so insecure, especially because, again, knight tricks to c3 can support it. And if I can play f5, seems pretty stable. I don't see where their knight's going. They have a bishop check, but I just moved the king. And then, what do they do? I don't know. Seems like a winning position now. Also, by playing e4, my knight has access to a nice square. This pawn's currently defended. This pawn was the other pawn, kind of pressured by this bishop. So I'm getting a little more freedom to develop my pieces. But yeah, definitely check out the triple triad videos if you're interested in games with calculation, strategic insight. It's a really variable game. Each game, the cards are different for each player, and strategic elements will remain, but which cards? I think I want... Ooh, no, I don't want to contest the file. That hangs a rook. Knight e5, I worry about bishop takes pawn takes f6 check. So it's still a little tricky to free myself. They would like to grab the e file. So maybe knight... Huh. This is actually tricky. How do I want to go about this? I don't want to allow rook e1 to e7. I need to stop that. I think I am going to play knight e5, even though I think... Alright, I think they should have played f6, king f8, rook e1, threatening mate on e8. Now I think I can take on f5, because if they take on e5 and then g5, I have bishop g6, and I have time to bring a rook to the e file perhaps at some point. Not yet, though. It's okay. I guess I want to contest the g6 bishop, because that's the thing preventing me from fighting for the key file. Okay, it's a trick, but I'm still up material at the end, so I'm not too bothered by this. Actually, I don't have to take that one. Yeah, they can put this in first. I guess I want to take king, keep my pawns together. I should just be up a piece here. On bishop takes, if they play rook e7 at the end, I might just play rook b8, just hold on to the pawn. Yeah, why give them anything? Try to play knight b2 takes c4, or knight b6 takes c4. Probably knight b6, because it defends critical squares like this one. If d7, I can now play rook d8. Seems like a win. Just got to make sure I play fast. I think I was a bit slow this game, but my opponent was not fast enough to punish me. Alright, my rook gets there in time. My knight can come back to b6, hit d7, and we're good. Should be a good 1-for-1 start. They can play rook h7. I might even play king g7 there. Just not give them anything. Or rook h6 they can play. Alright, 1-for-1. Good start. First game in a while, so, always a little worried. Back to triple triad, though, the one true game. A ton of positional elements of understanding kind of which squares matter and why. A ton of calculation. I've found when showing chess players the game that the calculation can be really unintuitive, though, of course, having practice in a game that requires a lot of calculation is very helpful. It's not immediately obvious which squares are the ones that matter and why, and figuring that out I think is really rewarding. I haven't seen f6 here before. So I could play f5 and kind of e4 and solidify that. I think I'll just go b3, maybe try to play bishop b2. Sometimes queen d3 is annoying, it's an annoying square, but I always have bishop e4 right now. If fe5, I should probably throw in fe5 at some point, because if they take knight, I play d4 with tempo. Just have to make sure on knight g4 I can defend e3 there, but if I can, then I get a really nice center. If they take back pawn, then I can claim they have an isolated pawn, though it's not very weak here, because my pawns are very broken up too. Yeah, so maybe this d-pawn is going to be a problem. How to make sure it's stable. Alright, I will take. I want to see how they take back. They took back pawn. Yeah, I think that was a good decision. So I can always stick a knight on e4. I'm going to start with queen c2. This might allow knight b4. I was hoping I'd like queen e4. Like bishop d5. I was hoping I could swing this way, but I cannot. So maybe knight b4 is just good. Alright, let's see what they want to do with their rooks. I do not like how I've handled this. Defend the pawn, but this is getting awkward. Bishop g4 is really annoying. I never have h3. If given free time, I would like to play, I think, knight e4 and c5. Let's go somewhere where knight d3 won't hit my queen. I don't really think I have realistic hopes of holding on to the bishop, but I don't see what good I do by giving it up, so I'll try to keep it. It's very uncomfortable for me. If bishop f5, I might have to play e4, though that opens up a new diagonal against my king. So maybe I'll play knight or bishop e4, though knight e4, bishop g4 gets really scary. This is a very bad position. I can't take on b7. If they play c6, my bishop gets routed so far out of the game, I think. Maybe I should try it just because this is a horrible position and I should create an imbalance. Really handled the opening badly, was unclear how to handle f6. Now I have knight e4 with tempo. That might give me a little space to free myself. Maybe I can think about knight c1 sometimes too. Knight e4 and knight c1. Bishop g4 could still be annoying someday, but currently I have d2 defended. So if the rook has to move away, I'm not leaving d2 weak. I'm on e5 if this knight's driven away. There might be a tactical problem, but I'm feeling a lot better about this position than I was a couple moves ago. I think bishop c5 was really aimless and kind of gave me tempo to do stuff I wasn't sure I wanted to do, because playing knight e4 left the knight on e2 undefended, and I thought bishop g4 hit hard. But once knight e4 came with tempo, I thought I could get away with it. And we'll see if I was right. Bishop g4 might still hit hard. I cannot claim it doesn't. I think I can play rook f1. d2 is still defended. Knight e4 is useful. I would love to take on d3 twice and take on e5. I can take on e5. Do we go for it? I think I go for it. The bishop can come back to d4 or c3, which defends d2. Yeah, let's just come back to c3. If they play knight d5, I'll let them take on c3, I think. Yeah. How do I get this knight into the game? Don't know. Actually, let's keep my bishop. Make them make a move. Maybe queen c2 to c4, because if they play something like bishop e6 in response, my queen can come back to e2, and that seems a nicer square than the ones my queen has been sitting on. Oh, I had queen b2. Didn't I just have queen b2? I was just thinking so much about my plan last turn I didn't see it, but queen b2 looks almost mating. I have f6 well covered. g6 was a terrible move. I didn't think about what they had done. I just assumed they still kind of had ways to block f6. Alright, check. What's the most efficient finish? It's probably going to be knight g5. It's hard to imagine it isn't. They must play king e7. I may have given them a bit of an escape, actually, because now they can go to d6. Huh. It wasn't what I did. Let's play queen g7. They have to go to d6, I think. Now I could play e4. I could take queens. I can just play knight f7 check. Take on d8, just bag some material. Alright, they gave me the queen. Now I'm on d5. Anything clever? No need. Surprised I got out of this game so happily. Now I threaten rook d1. This whole path wasn't so good for them. I'm going to take on d7 and then try to play queen g7. Alright, 2 for 2. Opening really went terribly, so I want to quickly check what to do when black plays just f6. Because I think... Ooh, people play d4, not f4 here. Interesting. Because I'm used to these f4 schemes. So for instance, if castles, let's actually go to the Masters database, higher quality play. And yeah, Masters play f4 here, right? And in the game, bishop e6, no one's played bishop e6. The move is d4. I guess I just threatened d5, and so it's annoying for them to meet. And if they have to take... I didn't know we could give up the bishop, but even just ed4, interesting. Just trying to play d5. Huh. They just retreat. I guess I'm just developing. This doesn't feel like plus 1.3 to me, but what about f4? f4, f6. Because normally the idea is take, knight takes, d4. And this idea weakened as I played it, because I put the bishop on b2, and once I do that, taking on e5 and then playing d4, they have knight g4, and suddenly e3 is weak, which it wouldn't be if my bishop was still on c1. So f6, and now I should take immediately. If pawn takes... they can't castle. That's a nice way to insert it, and I can go for this d4, d5. It's completely blind to d4 possibilities. And if they take knight, I assume I happily go d4, per usual. Knight f7 is a new square, my knight comes to f4, or I just take on b7. Yeah, that's very strong. Alright, 2 for 2. Gaining some rating. I am rated too low at the moment, I think. I think I'm still under 2350. But 2 for 2, good start. Yep, still under 2350. Let's play knight f6. Tend to play sort of... Let's play d5. Get a stake in the center. Try to play Queen's Gambit accepted. I don't know what I'm doing. Alright. Let's play a6. Try to play b5. And if they do this, I can play knight c6 to a5 and just be a little annoying about the c4 pawn. Knight e5, maybe I can just play bishop e6. Why not? Try to play c6 and b5. And just hold on. I also have knight b3 anytime I want it. Now let's play c6, cover d5, and prepare b5 myself, which I think I can play, though it looks tactically very dangerous, but c6 is defended. I don't see the problems. I think I have snagged a pawn. I will take back a. If they take, I will take back a. If they have rook a5, I will take back queen, because if I took back rook, knight c6 would fork me. So I'll take back queen to avoid forks. Okay. If they take my knight, I think I take back e so my bishop can come out. So let's make a stabilizing move. Maybe queen c7. Just keep an eye on everything, like their knight on e5. Do I want g6? I don't know. Do I want to try to play bishop c8 to b7? I don't know either. And then e6. Maybe I'll go that way. It's a bit of a weird move. But if I play bishop b7, the rook's better defended. Maybe I should throw on knight b3 at some point, though I haven't seen a good opportunity yet. I think I'm doing pretty decently speaking and playing with enough speed. Maybe queen b6. You can play poke with their bishop and my queen. I'm now threatening knight b3, winning d4. They allow it. I guess they get c6 at the end. So let's just defend everything. If bishop e3, I'll play queen d8 to get out of stuff. But I do want to play knight b3 next turn. I just grab a pawn. And maybe I should have gone for it last turn. I just wanted to keep c6 secure, keep everything defended. Okay, well now I'm definitely going for it, because now I can take with check, and that forces queens off the board. And so I'm just up 2 pawns. I have a queenside pawn mass. I am a little behind in development, but I don't think a concerning amount. When they hit my knight, I probably go back to b3, think about e6 and bishop c5, or knight c5. E6. If they play g5, my knight comes to d7. I'd love to question their knight. I should probably be thinking about knight there anyway. Bishop c5, bishop e3, I worry I walk into a pin. Let's just take on e2. Yeah, we're ahead material. Why not trade? I don't want to allow them an invasion on d7. So I'm a little scared of g5 now. So I'm going to prevent g5. Should probably throw in bishop c5 check at some point, but I don't think I'm in a rush. Alright, well, let's play it. See what they do. My bishop is a little awkward there, actually. Okay, I'm going to take, and I can't play rook d8, because if rook takes, king takes, knight f7. They're threatening like rook c3 or rook c1, picking up c6. Is annoying. Don't see what I can do. So I'm going to make a safe-ish move. This may all bail out into not much of an advantage, if any. Okay, bishop d6. If knight c6, I take on f4, and then I can't play rook c8 there because of knight e7. But it's going to be hard to play this for a win. I'm going to take and take on a4, but I think this is just going to bail out into a draw. Try to trade one pair of rooks, play rook c6 to defend the pawn. Maybe rook a8. Yeah, let's go rook a8. Try to maneuver the knight into somewhere annoying. Alright, let's prevent their knight going to c5 or e5. Knight b4, I'll play a5, I think. They come to c6. There can be annoying pins for them. If I play like rook a6 here, do they really want to play knight a5 and walk into a pin? Maybe, maybe not. We at least ask the question. They probably can get away with it, but at least it gives them something to think about. They decided they could because they're going to go rook a1 and knight to c3. Play g5, seems useful. They're going to go rook a1. I saw a different path. Interesting. Now maybe my rook can get to a3, though. Maybe. They should play knight c4. Ooh, but then I pin them. Ah, but they check and get out of the pin. So let's come to g6, try to come into f4 or h4. Really would love to get in rook a3, though their knight currently defends it. Right, so let's poke their knight first, try to get to a3. Now I'm threatening knight h4, knight f4, knight e5, something in that vicinity. Let's come to h4. Gotta be quick. Maybe try to play h5, h4. Okay, well, they got me on the the low time move, but it wasn't enough. And we broke 2350, 3 for 3. Pretty good start. I think I'm playing reasonable chess. It's always nice. I think I handled the 2 pawns up position, but I liked my getting of it. I mean, I basically just won 2 pawns out of the opening. Queen's Gambit accepted. Sometimes you just take a pawn and hold on. Let's play Queen's Gambit ourselves. Alright. I really only know the exchange against the Queen's Gambit declined at all, so I'm going to play this. I will try to play it in an interesting way. Bishop d3. For a friend who swears by Queen d2 instead of Queen c2, though he might be getting over it. I think the Queen's a bit better placed on c2, controlling key squares like e4. But I also developed differently after. Okay. I'll play Queen c2. Now I sort of can think about h3, g4. You could also think about f3 if you like to play the Queen's Gambit declined exchange with f3, but I like to play it with h3. My goal is to castle queenside. I'm going to play king b1 probably next. If they play b4, I can play knight a4, and that sort of slows them down. Let's play g4. Still intending to meet b4 with knight a4, so usually black will play a5, a4 to control that square, and only then will threaten b4. And then I have to do something about it. And what I will do if they play a4, which I think is the best move, is play knight e2, so that b4 doesn't come with tempo, so that b3 can't follow with tempo. Now I can't play b3 myself because of knight a3. I think I should start trying to position for g5. Maybe knight f5 next. If they play b4, I think I take on c4 and then move my queen away, so that, again, b3 doesn't come with tempo for them. But I like how they've handled this. I think they've played well. Yeah. So I still don't have b3 because of knight a3. I would like to move my queen. Normally you move it to d2. Their knight covers that square. I'm going to take, and then I think play queen c1 anyway. If b3, a3, if a3... Ooh, a3 is a good move. They should play a3. Or c3. Bad position. Yeah. Okay. Might be able to leave that. So let's play knight f5. If we can trade off their bishops, it's harder for them to attack some squares. They could play queen d5 here. That looks really good. Except that knight e7 check. We have a good reply. Okay. So probably queen b2. I don't think leaving their pawn there actually gives me much of a pawn shield. Okay. a3 and then b3 is clever. I'm going to play queen d2. If b3, I might play something like knight e7 followed by knight c3. And if they take on a2, then I can play king a1 and maybe sit there safely. It's very important my bishop controls b8 because it's hard for them to line up a rook against my king. I will probably take on a2 at some point, mostly so I can play a rook b1. That's a good move. The opposite bishops aren't that drawish for me because they're attacking, and it just means I can't defend the squares they can attack. I might be able to push my my king side at some point. This pawn's a weakness, my king's terrible. I definitely have problems, but I can get to b1 to contest if I need to. They do not have a check on the long diagonal yet. I think I will play rook b1. I'm in no rush to play f5, because after bishop d5 they have quicker access to useful squares. Oops. Oops. Ah, I missed that. Very clever. Nice move by my opponent. I think I have to resign. Point is rook b2, pawn b2 check, and they suddenly have a double attack on a2. Yeah, nicely played. Alright. 1 for 4, and we're back under 2350. Ah, I should have rematched them. Or 3 for 4. 3 for 4. Let me take this opportunity to once again say Triple Triad is great. Check out my videos on it. There should be playlists devoted to it. Maybe we'll get another Queen's Gambit declined. Let's not let them double our pawns. Gain some space on the queen side. I don't like to commit to d4 in these lines. I'd like to have the break e4 someday. Someday. Alright, let's castle into it. Not sure why I did this. Maybe queen d4 to h4 to g3 is a goofy way to bring the queen over. Just an unusual path. But I'm going to try to get my king to the king side. I feel like if we trade queens, I have a nice position with the two bishops. So I'm thinking queen g3 rather than queen g5 so that my knight can come to g5 after and maybe hit some weak squares. And if my knight can move with tempo, then I can get bishop f3 and counter their pressure on the long diagonal. That is, of course, trading off a bishop that I just said I liked. Less principled than I aspire to be. Alright, let's defend the mate on g2 and threaten knight h4, forking f5 and g6. And pray, because I think I've handled this very poorly. I should play for the c5 break at some point. I don't see what this does, but I don't see how it lets me free myself either. Do they want f4? f4 allows e4. Do they want e4? They might want to e4. We'll play rook c1, seems useful. I could play knight h4 and think about taking on g4, but then my knight's often going to get trapped. Maybe c5. Yeah, I kind of like the look of c5. My point is a bc5, bc5, knight c5. I think I have knight e5. Because their pawn is going to be overworked defending both squares. So I was thinking knight e5. Let's try it. Hopefully I didn't miscalculate. This is always one of those ones where if you miscalculate it, it can get very bad very quick. But if I didn't, it breaks up their pawns in a nice way. My rook on c1 is going to be pretty good. I'm hopeful. Good opponent, though, so they'll probably think of something clever. I am hitting their queen. If they go something like queen f6, I can even think about like rook c5 followed by knight d7. So there's stuff in the air. I think this is now a nice position. So I have bishop e5, I have d4. I think I just want to play bishop e5. They do keep a big center, but their pawn on c7 is weak if they take back and I take on c5. It's very hard for them to displace my queen on h3, which also is the g3 square. So it's a bit hard for them to attack. Maybe just... where do I want to come with the bishop? Bishop d4, then they play knight e6. Bishop g3, they might have f4 there. I'm going to hit the a5 pawn. Maybe just gobble stuff. I didn't want bishop g3, f4, bishop takes, rook takes, pawn takes, rook e2. That seems bad. And bishop f4, knight e6, I wasn't sure how I'd react. Bishop a1, I thought knight b3. Bishop b2, I just felt it was doing a little less than bishop c3. Alright. I guess I gotta play e4, shut things down. They can play f3. I have to take bishop. And they can take d3. I'm drawing horrible, horrible arrows. They can take on d3. And they have a lot of firepower on e4. I have trouble defending that. So I can play bishop h5. Maybe save that a turn. If, say, bishop e4, I might play bishop h5. Knight f4, bishop g6, knight h3 check. I think it's okay for me. Ah, they insert that first. Okay, should be able to play queen g3. They don't have knight e2, though I have to keep an eye on it. Let's make sure it's covered. I have made ideas on... I don't get it. Made ideas on g7 if they hang stuff. Okay. Let's make sure e2 is covered at all costs. keep my bishop in the game. Try to take on f4. Let's keep my bishop. Keep them tied to a g7. Give myself some luft. Hit the queen. They had mate if they took. Just missing that. Okay. Gotta go fast. That was, of course, a horrendous move, but it was a quick one. Yeah, and we got them. Alright, 4 for 5. Stayed over 2350 in the end. I think those were reasonable games, and I wasn't so bad talking. I was going to try to only record when my computer wasn't making noise, because it loves making noise, but I don't seem to have succeeded at that. So I think I'll record another bullet video today. This with blitz, obviously. I am capable of recognizing the difference. Cheers.